April 1945. The North Atlantic. A lone Allied aircraft hovers above gray water, watching a German convoy crawl toward Norway. The pilot has strict orders: observe, report position, do not engage. But in 12 minutes, 3 enemy ships will flip beneath the waves, and the rule book will be rewritten in fire and salt water. The war is ending, but no one has told the ocean. Spring 1945 brings no warmth to the North Atlantic. The water remains black and cold, churning under skies the color of gunmetal. German U-boats still prowl the depths. Convoys still run the gauntlet between occupied Norway and the crumbling Reich. Every crossing is a calculated risk. Every sighting matters. By April, the Allies control the air. Coastal Command aircraft patrol in overlapping arcs, eyes scanning for the telltale wakes of enemy ships. Their mission is intelligence gathering. Track enemy movements, radio coordinates. Let the destroyers and bombers finish the job. It is a system built on patience and chain of command. The sound of a Bristol Beaufighter is unmistakable, twin radial engines raw and guttural, pushing the twin-engine strike fighter through salt-thick air. Inside the cockpit, visibility is limited. Instruments shake with vibration. The smell is oil and metal and cold sweat. Every patrol is hours of nothing punctuated by seconds of chaos. Flight Lieutenant Kenneth Campbell Moore is not supposed to be a warrior. He is 24. Before the war, he studied engineering at Cambridge. He likes solving problems more than following scripts. His logbook shows hundreds of patrol hours, reconnaissance, weather observation, submarine spotting. He has never fired his guns in anger. He has never needed to. On this patrol, he is flying armed reconnaissance off the Norwegian coast. His Beaufighter carries 4 20mm cannons in the nose and 6 machine guns in the wings. Beneath the fuselage hang 8 rocket projectiles. They are there for emergencies. Self-defense. Targets of opportunity if explicitly authorized. The standing order is clear. Do not engage capital ships without support. Do not deviate from mission profile. Report and return. His navigator, Sergeant Thomas Reed, sits behind him in the cramped fuselage. Reed handles the radio, the maps, the calculations that keep them from flying into a mountainside or running out of fuel over open water. They have flown together for 9 months. They know each other's breathing patterns. They do not waste words. The patrol grid is a rectangle of empty ocean 200 miles long. They fly it twice a week. Most days, they see nothing. Whitecaps, fog banks, sometimes a fishing trawler. Once, a pod of whales that showed up on radar like a ghost flotilla. Today is different. At 1400 hours, Reed spots them first. 3 shapes on the horizon moving south in loose formation. He taps Moore's shoulder and points. Moore banks left, dropping altitude. The shapes resolve into silhouettes. Merchant vessels, medium tonnage, flanked by 2 smaller escorts. A classic coastal convoy hugging the fjords for safety. Moore circles at a distance, keeping the sun behind him. He notes their heading, speed, composition. Reed scribbles coordinates and begins encoding the radio transmission. This is textbook. Observe. Report. The convoy will be logged, analyzed, and possibly interdicted by a strike package tomorrow or the day after. The system works because everyone plays their role. Moore watches the ships plow through the swells. They are not racing. They are not zigzagging. They believe they are safe this close to shore, under the umbrella of German air cover. But there are no German fighters in the sky today. No flak bursts. Just 3 cargo ships moving slowly, almost casually, toward a port that no longer has enough fuel to defend itself. He thinks about tonnage, about what those ships might carry. Ammunition, fuel, troops. Supplies for a garrison that will keep fighting even as Berlin burns. He thinks about the strike package that might come tomorrow, the weather window that might close, the chance that these ships will unload tonight and be gone by dawn. Reed finishes the transmission. Message sent. Mission complete. They should turn for home. Moore does not turn for home. He continues circling, studying the geometry of the convoy. The escorts are Krieg's marine patrol boats, small and lightly armed. The merchant ships are separated by 400 yards. No evasive maneuvers, no smoke, no indication they have spotted the Beaufighter. The conditions are almost perfect. Calm sea, clear sky, no enemy air. He feels the weight of the rockets under his wings. He knows the doctrine. He knows the chain of command. He also knows that in 12 hours these ships will be unloaded and the men they supply will kill Allied soldiers. Reed senses the hesitation. He asks if they are heading back. Moore does not answer immediately. He tells Reed to calculate an attack vector. There is a pause. Reed reminds him of the standing order. Moore acknowledges it. Then he banks the Beaufighter into a wide turn, lining up on the rearmost merchant ship. If this history matters to you, tap like and subscribe. Kenneth Moore was not trained to disobey. He grew up in Sussex, the son of a postal clerk and a schoolteacher. His childhood was orderly, books and cricket, Sunday roast and evening prayers. He learned early that systems work when people trust them, that rules exist for reasons, that the smart man follows procedure. At Cambridge, he studied mechanical engineering. He liked bridges, structures, the mathematics of forces and loads. There was elegance in a well-designed truss, in the way a beam could distribute weight invisibly. His professors said he had an intuitive grasp of stress and failure points. He could look at a problem and see where it would break. When war came in 1939, he did not rush to enlist. He was halfway through his degree. He assumed he would finish, then be assigned to some technical corps. Aircraft design, maybe, or logistics. The war would need engineers as much as pilots. But the war moved faster than anyone planned. By 1940, the RAF was losing pilots faster than it could train them. The call went out for volunteers with technical aptitude. Moore fit the profile. He was good with instruments. He understood aerodynamics. He could think in 3 dimensions. He joined Coastal Command in early 1941. It was not glamorous. Coastal Command did not fly Spitfires or bomb Berlin. They flew long, cold patrols over water, hunting submarines and protecting convoys. The work was tedious and essential. Most missions ended without contact, hours of boredom stitched together by moments of confusion. Moore proved to be a meticulous pilot. He followed checklists. He logged everything. He never took unnecessary risks. His commanding officer noted that Moore had a gift for spatial reasoning. He could navigate by dead reckoning in bad weather. He could estimate distances and speeds with uncanny accuracy. He was the kind of pilot you wanted on a search and rescue mission or a weather reconnaissance run. But he was not a fighter pilot. He had no kills, no dramatic stories. His log book was a catalog of uneventful hours. Patrol completed. Nothing sighted. Returned to base. He did not mind. He understood his role in the machine. Someone had to watch the empty ocean so that someone else could strike when it mattered. It was methodical work. It suited him. His navigator, Sergeant Thomas Reed, was older, 31, a schoolteacher from Edinburgh before the war. Reed had a wife and a daughter he had not seen in 2 years. He carried their photograph in his breast pocket, wrapped in waxed paper to protect it from the damp. Reed and Moore developed a rhythm. They did not talk much in the air. Reed trusted Moore's flying. Moore trusted Reed's navigation. They worked like a 2-man equation, variables balancing each other. Neither of them had ever broken a direct order. Moore had read the after-action reports. He knew what happened to pilots who engaged without authorization. Court-martial sometimes, reprimand always, loss of command. Even if the action succeeded, even if the target was legitimate, the breach of discipline could not be ignored. The RAF ran on order, on trust, on the certainty that when you gave a command, it would be followed. But Moore had also read the intelligence summaries. He knew how many ships were slipping through the coastal corridors, how many tons of supplies were reaching beleaguered German units. He knew the strike packages were stretched thin. He knew that opportunities were fleeting. As he flies his Beaufighter toward the convoy, he is not thinking about glory. He is thinking about geometry, about angles of approach, about the rockets slung beneath his wings, and whether they will be enough. He is thinking about the gap between what the rulebook says and what the moment demands. Reed, in the back, does not argue. He recalculates their fuel. He checks the wind. He prepares to call out Rangers. He knows what Moore is doing. He does not stop him. The Beaufighter drops to wave-top height. The sea blurs beneath them. The convoy grows larger. Moore's hands are steady on the stick. His breathing slows. The noise of the engines fades into background static. He has spent 4 years watching. Now, for 12 minutes, he will act. The problem was not that German convoys existed. The problem was that they kept succeeding. By April 1945, the Reich is collapsing. Berlin is encircled, the Western Front has disintegrated, the Luftwaffe is grounded for lack of fuel. And yet, along the Norwegian coast, German shipping continues to operate with surprising effectiveness. Norway is the Reich's last functional supply corridor. The long, ragged coastline is a maze of fjords and islands, offering cover from air attack. German garrisons in Norway number over 300,000 men. They need food, ammunition, and fuel. They receive it by sea. The convoys run at night when possible, hug the coastline, use the fjords like highways. They are small, nimble, and hard to catch. By the time Allied reconnaissance spots them and reports their position, they have often changed course or reached port. Strikes are planned for the next day, but the next day the convoy is gone. Coastal Command has tried everything: increased patrols, coordinated sweeps, improved radar. The intelligence is good. The response time is not. Between sighting, reporting, authorization, and execution, hours pass, sometimes a full day. The window closes. The doctrine makes sense on paper. A single aircraft, even armed, should not engage a defended convoy. The risk of loss is too high. The probability of mission kill is too low. Better to gather intelligence, call in a strike package, and overwhelm the target with coordinated force. But doctrine assumes you have time. It assumes the target will still be there when the bombers arrive. In practice, the Germans have learned to exploit the gaps. They move fast. They unload faster. A convoy that reaches port at dawn can be empty by noon. The cargo disperses into the mountains, into tunnels, into bunkers. Bombing an empty ship achieves nothing. Allied commanders know this. They see the pattern. They see supplies reaching units that should be starving. They see coastal guns that should be silent still firing. They see resistance that should have crumbled still holding. But changing doctrine is slow. Authorizing independent strike authority for reconnaissance pilots is risky. What if they hit a neutral vessel? What if they misidentify a target? What if they get shot down trying to be heroes? The calculus is cold. Better to lose some cargo than to lose aircraft and crews. Moore understands this calculus. He has sat through the briefings. He has heard the logic. He does not disagree with it in principle. But principle does not account for the moment when the target is in front of you, undefended and unaware. The convoy he is watching is carrying something. He does not know what. It could be food. It could be artillery shells. It could be mail and spare parts. Intelligence will analyze the manifests later if the ships are sunk and the documents recovered. If not, it will remain a guess. What he does know is that these 3 ships will reach port in 4 hours, that they will unload overnight, that by this time tomorrow, whatever they carry will be distributed to units still fighting. He knows that a strike package will not be authorized until tomorrow morning at the earliest, that the weather forecast shows deteriorating conditions, that there is a chance the window will close entirely. He knows that he has 8 rockets and 4 cannons and a clear line of attack. The impossible problem is not how to sink the ships. The impossible problem is justifying the decision to act without permission, to break the chain of command, to trust his own judgment over the system designed to prevent exactly this kind of freelancing. Moore is an engineer. He believes in systems, but he also believes in stress points, in knowing when the load exceeds the capacity, in understanding when the structure will fail if you wait. The convoy is the load. The system is too slow. The moment is now. He does not radio for permission. There is no time, and he knows the answer. He arms the rockets. He throttles forward. He commits. The first thing he notices is the absence of flak. Moore comes in low and fast, skimming the wave tops at 200 knots. The roar of the Beaufighter's engines should alert the convoy, should trigger defensive fire, should bring the escorts racing toward him with guns blazing. Nothing happens. The ships plow forward, oblivious. The escorts maintain formation. No smoke, no alarm bells, no sudden turns. He realizes they think he is German. Coastal aircraft are rare in these waters now. Allied or Axis, it does not matter. A twin-engine plane at this altitude in this sector is most likely a German patrol. The convoy has no reason to fear it. Moore uses the confusion. He angles toward the rearmost merchant ship, a mid-sized freighter riding low in the water. Heavy cargo, full hold, the kind of target that matters. Reed calls out range, 1,200 yards, 1,800. Moore's thumb hovers over the rocket release. The Beaufighter shudders as he lines up the shot. The ship grows in the windscreen. He can see rust streaks on the hull. Crewmen on deck. A canvas tarp lashed over the forward hatch. 600 yards. He fires. The first two rockets streak forward, trailing white smoke. They are unguided, ballistic. The accuracy depends entirely on angle, speed, and instinct. Moore has practiced on training ranges, firing at stationary targets painted on hillsides. He has never fired at a moving ship. The rockets hit low, punching through the hull just above the waterline. The explosions are sharp and bright. Orange blooms against gray steel. The ship shudders. A geyser of seawater erupts from the impact point. Moore banks hard right, avoiding the mast. He circles wide, watching. The ship is listing, not sinking yet, but wounded. The crew scrambles. He sees figures running aft toward the lifeboats. The escorts finally react. Tracers arc toward him, slow and lazy at first, then frantic. The patrol boats are turning, trying to close the distance. Their deck guns are small caliber, designed for anti-aircraft defense. Effective only at close range. Moore does not give them the chance. He climbs, gaining altitude and separation. The second merchant ship is accelerating now, black smoke pouring from its stack. The third ship is turning toward the coast, trying to reach the shelter of the fjord. Reed reminds him of their fuel state. They have enough for one more pass, maybe two if they stretch it. Moore chooses the second ship. It is larger than the first, a cargo hauler, broad and ungainly. It presents a wide profile, easier to hit. He lines up from a different angle this time, coming in from the starboard side where the escorts cannot cover. He fires the remaining 6 rockets in 2 salvos, 3, then 3 more. The first salvo misses, splashing into the sea ahead of the bow. The second salvo connects. 2 rockets strike amidships. 1 hits the superstructure near the bridge. The detonations are louder this time, deeper. Something secondary ignites. A column of fire shoots upward, followed by thick black smoke. The ship does not slow. It cannot. Momentum carries it forward even as flames spread along the deck. Moore watches as the crew abandons the bridge. Men leap into the water. The patrol boats move to recover them, pulling away from their escort duties. The third ship is near the fjord entrance now. It has a chance. If it reaches the narrows, Moore cannot follow. The cliffs will block his approach. The coastal guns will have a clear line of fire. He considers letting it go. He has already exceeded his mandate. 2 ships hit, 1 sinking, 1 burning. It is enough. More than enough. But the 3rd ship is the largest. It rides lowest in the water. It carries the most cargo. Moore has no rockets left. He has guns. He tells Reed to hold on. He pushes the throttle forward and dives toward the fleeing ship. The 20mm cannons in the Beaufighter's nose are designed for strafing U-boats and light targets. Against a merchant ship, they are marginal, but Moore is not aiming for the hull. He is aiming for the waterline, for the rudder, for the engine intakes. He opens fire at 400 yards. The cannons hammer, shaking the airframe. Spent casings tumble into the slipstream. The tracers walk across the water and climb the stern. Sparks fly, metal tears. He sees pieces of railing shear away. He makes 3 passes, each one lower, each one closer. The patrol boats are shooting now, desperate bursts of tracer fire that pass wide. He ignores them. He focuses on the ship. On the 3rd pass, something critical fails. The ship slews to port, losing steerage. Smoke pours from the engine room vents. It begins to drift, no longer under power. Moore climbs and turns for home. Behind him, 3 ships are dead in the water. 1 is sinking. 1 is burning. 1 is crippled. 12 minutes have passed since he broke formation. Reed gives him a heading. They fly in silence. The adrenaline ebbs. The cold returns. Moore's hands are shaking now, the tremor he did not feel during the attack. He does not know if he will be court-martialed or decorated. He does not know if the ships will actually sink or be salvaged. He does not know if the cargo mattered. What he knows is that he saw an opportunity and took it. That he trusted his judgment over the rule book. That he bet everything on 12 minutes of action. The ocean passes beneath them, indifferent and vast. They land at RAF Wick 2 hours later, fuel tanks nearly dry. The ground crew sees the empty rocket rails, the scorched gun barrels, the smell of cordite still clinging to the airframe. Word spreads before Moore shuts down the engines. The debriefing is immediate. Moore and Reed are escorted to the operations room, still wearing their flight suits. The intelligence officer is waiting. So is the squadron commander. Moore delivers his report without embellishment. Convoy sighted at 14 hours. Position relayed. Decision made to engage. 3 vessels attacked. 2 confirmed hits. 1 probable mission kill. No friendly losses. Return to base. The intelligence officer asks why he engaged without authorization. Moore does not offer excuses. He states that the tactical situation presented a fleeting opportunity, that the convoy was undefended, that the likelihood of a successful strike package within the operational window was low. The squadron commander listens without expression. He dismisses Moore and Reed, tells them to stand by. For 2 days, nothing happens. Moore is not confined. He is not grounded. He is simply told to wait. He flies no missions. He attends no briefings. He exists in a bureaucratic limbo. Reed tells him it could go either way. Courts-martial or commendation. The RAF does not like mavericks, but it likes results. On the 3rd day, reconnaissance photographs arrive. A Spitfire flying high-altitude photo recon over the Norwegian coast captured the aftermath. The images are grainy, but clear. 2 ships sunk. 1 beached and abandoned. Debris fields spreading along the coastline, oil slicks, wreckage. The intelligence assessment follows. The convoy was carrying ammunition and fuel, critical supplies for German garrisons in northern Norway. The loss represents a significant disruption to logistics, equivalent to a squadron-level bombing raid. Achieved by a single aircraft, 0 Allied losses. The squadron commander calls Moore into his office. He does not smile. He tells Moore that he disobeyed a direct order, that independent action undermines command authority, that luck is not a substitute for discipline. Then he tells Moore that the attack has been officially credited, that the Admiralty has confirmed the sinkings, That Coastal Command is revising its engagement protocols to allow limited strike authority for armed reconnaissance under specific conditions. Moore is not court-martialed. He is not decorated either, not immediately. He is simply returned to flight status. The incident is logged. The results are noted. The system absorbs the lesson and moves on. But something has changed. Other pilots hear the story. They understand the subtext. The rules are still the rules. But the war is ending. Opportunities are fleeting. Sometimes the man in the cockpit has to make the call. Over the next 4 weeks, Coastal Command records 17 independent strikes by reconnaissance aircraft. Not all succeed. 2 planes are lost. But the cumulative effect is measurable. German convoys begin moving at night exclusively. They travel in smaller groups. They take longer routes. The flow of supplies slows. Moore flies 8 more patrols before the war ends. He does not engage again. He does not need to. The point has been made. On May 8, 1945, Germany surrenders. Moore is in the operations room when the announcement comes through. He feels relief more than joy. He thinks about the men he killed, the ships he sank, the cargo that never reached its destination. He does not know if it mattered. He knows only that he acted when action was possible. Years later, a historian will calculate that the 3 ships Moore sank were carrying enough ammunition to supply 2 infantry battalions for 6 weeks, that the fuel would have powered coastal defense guns and radar stations, that the delay in resupply contributed to the German decision to surrender Norway without a final stand. Moore will never see that analysis. He will never know the precise weight of his 12 minutes. But the Beaufighter crews will know. The ones who flew after him. The ones who made the call when the moment came. They will know that the system bent because one man trusted his judgment, that the war was won in 1,000 small decisions made by people who saw what needed to be done and did it. The attack is recorded in Coastal Command logs as a routine engagement. No medal, no headline, just a line in a ledger. 3 ships, 12 minutes. 1 pilot who broke the rules because the rules were too slow. The ripple starts small. Within a week of Moore's engagement, Coastal Command quietly updates its rules of engagement. Armed reconnaissance aircraft are now authorized to attack targets of opportunity under specific conditions: undefended or lightly defended convoys, confirmed enemy vessels, favorable tactical conditions, no requirement for prior authorization if immediate communication is not possible. The language is careful. It does not endorse recklessness. It does not invite freelancing, but it acknowledges reality, that war moves faster than radio signals, that the pilot in the air has information the commander on the ground does not. That trust must flow both ways. The revision is distributed without fanfare, a single-page amendment to the standing operational procedures. Most pilots never read it, but the squadron commanders do. And the message is clear. Use your judgment. We will back you. The impact is immediate. Between May 1st and May 8th, 1945, Coastal Command aircraft sink or damage 23 enemy vessels in Norwegian waters. Not all are independent strikes, but several are. Reconnaissance pilots who see an opportunity and take it, who fire their rockets and report afterward. The German garrisons notice. Supply runs become more dangerous. Ships turn back. Convoys shrink or stop altogether. The flow of ammunition, fuel, and food slows to a trickle. By the time the surrender comes, some units are on quarter rations. The Norwegian resistance notices too. They send messages to London reporting that German morale is collapsing, that officers are negotiating surrender terms, that the coastal defenses are being abandoned. The intelligence analysts connect the dots. The supply disruption is accelerating the collapse. None of this appears in newspapers. The public does not hear about Kenneth Moore. The story is too small, too technical, too ambiguous. There is no dramatic rescue, no single turning point, just a series of strikes that add up to pressure. But within the RAF, The story spreads. Moore becomes a case study, not a hero, a data point, an example of how initiative and discipline can coexist, how trusting the man in the cockpit can amplify effectiveness without sacrificing control. After the war, the lessons are codified. The RAF analyzes hundreds of engagements, looking for patterns. What worked? What did not? What rules helped? What rules hindered? Moore's attack appears in a classified study on decentralized command in fluid combat environments. The analysis is dry, academic, but the conclusion is clear. Rigid adherence to authorization protocols resulted in missed opportunities. Limited engagement authority for experienced pilots in reconnaissance roles increased operational tempo and target saturation without significant increase in losses. The study influences doctrine for the next generation. The Cold War RAF trains pilots to think independently, to assess targets, to make decisions under uncertainty. The phrase, commander's intent, becomes central. Know the mission. Know the objective. Use your judgment to achieve it. Moore never sees the study. He never knows his name is in it. He also never learns the full cost of his decision. The German freighter he hit first, the one that listed and began to sink, was carrying forced laborers in the lower hold, Norwegian civilians, conscripted to work in German factories. When the ship went down, 37 of them drowned, locked below deck. The British Admiralty investigates after the war, cross-referencing survivor testimony and German shipping logs. They confirm the casualties, they classify the report. There is no trial, no blame assigned. It was war. The ship was a legitimate target. The deaths are filed as collateral damage. Moore is never told. The decision is made at a level above his clearance. There is no benefit to informing him, no policy to change, just a tragedy folded into the larger tragedy. But the data is recorded, and future analysts will study it. We'll weigh the 37 against the battalions that went unsupplied. We'll argue about acceptable losses and the fog of war. We'll conclude coldly that Moore's decision was statistically justified. Moore would not have agreed. He was an engineer. He believed in precision, in knowing what you are hitting, in minimizing variables. But war does not offer precision. It offers moments, choices made on incomplete information, actions taken because inaction is also a choice. The 37 dead do not appear on any memorial. Their names are lost in the chaos of occupation and liberation. They are footnotes in a footnote. But they are part of the equation, part of the cost of 12 minutes, part of the reason the rules existed in the first place. The ripple is not clean. It never is. Kenneth Moore leaves the RAF in 1946. He returns to Cambridge to finish his degree. He does not talk about the war. When asked, he says he flew patrols, that it was mostly boring, that he was lucky. He marries in 1948. He works as a civil engineer, designing bridges in the Midlands. Span calculations, load tables, stress analysis. The work is quiet and methodical. He likes it. He does not think about the convoy often. When he does, it is not with pride or regret. It is with a kind of distant curiosity, a wondering about the variables he could not see, the decisions made by others because of his decision. In 1963, he receives a letter from the Air Historical Branch. They are compiling records of Coastal Command operations. They ask if he would be willing to discuss his engagement in April 1945. They are polite, formal. They assure him it is for archival purposes only. He writes back. He declines. He says his memory is unreliable, that the details are in the official logs, that he has nothing to add. It is not entirely true. His memory is sharp. He remembers the approach, the weight of the rockets releasing, the way the first ship shuddered when the warhead struck. He remembers Reed's voice on the intercom, steady and calm, calling out ranges. He remembers the silence on the flight home. But he does not want to revisit it, not because it haunts him, Because it is done. The war is over. The ships are gone. The men who died on both sides are buried or forgotten. There is no insight to extract, no lesson that justifies reopening the file. He lives quietly. He retires in 1979. He gardens. He reads. He dies in 1987 at the age of 66 from a heart attack while pruning roses. His obituary mentions his service in the RAF. It does not mention the convoy. His logbook is donated to the RAF Museum at Hendon. It sits in a climate-controlled archive, catalogued and preserved. Researchers occasionally pull it. They note the entry for April 18, 1945. Patrol completed. Engagement conducted. 3 vessels struck. Return to base. The entry is factual, sparse. It does not capture the 12 minutes. It does not explain the decision. It simply records that something happened. Years later, a documentary filmmaker discovers the story. He wants to make Moore a hero. He wants dramatic reenactments, a narrative of defiance and courage. He contacts Moore's widow, asks for interviews, for letters, for photographs. She refuses. She says her husband would not have wanted it, that he did his job, that the war was full of people who did their jobs, that there is nothing special about 12 minutes. The filmmaker is frustrated. He does not understand. The story has all the elements: risk, initiative, impact. Why not tell it? But she is right. Moore would not have wanted it, because he knew the cost. He knew the 37 names that never made it into his report. He knew that heroism is a word people use when they do not want to count the bodies. He knew that he made a choice, that the choice had consequences, that some of those consequences saved lives and some ended them, that you do not get to pick which ones count. The war was not won by heroes. It was won by people who acted when action was necessary, who trusted their judgment, who lived with the results. Moore's 12 minutes changed engagement protocols, influenced doctrine, saved lives by denying supplies to an enemy, ended lives by sinking a ship that carried more than cargo. It is not a story with a moral. It is a story with a cost. The cost of deciding, the cost of acting, the cost of trusting that the moment in front of you matters more than the rule book behind you. Moore understood that cost. He paid it. And then he went back to building bridges, calculating loads, and living quietly in a world that moved on. The lesson is not that he was right. The lesson is that someone has to choose. That war does not wait for perfect information. That the man in the cockpit in that moment has to weigh what he knows against what he fears and decide. Sometimes the rules are too slow. Sometimes the system cannot see what the individual sees. Sometimes 12 minutes are all you have, and sometimes that is enough.